We got a lot to talk about. Camp has been a lot of fun. A lot of the storylines have been awesome. Jeff, thanks so much for joining us. And listen, I got to talk about Moro Jomo. He has been the story of camp, to say the least. He has been huge in this camp. You've had Leonard Dickerson really talk about him and in glowing fashion. So talk to me about what Moro Jomo has done for this organization and in training camp so far, Jeff.
Good to talk to you guys. Am I in trouble, by the way? Because I heard Jeff P. Mosher. Make sure that my mom isn't.
I was giving out your Twitter platform.
Oh, okay. Just making sure.
Jeff P. Mosher, please report to the principal's office.
P stands for principal. Moro Jomo. Moro Jomo has had a very good camp. In fact, my colleague at Philly Voice, Jimmy Kemsky, wrote, he did like a media poll. He does this every year where he asks 30 reporters, who's stock up and whose stock is down. And Moro Jomo, I believe, was the leading vote getter on defense for stock up. And not only that, but he wrote that he realized last year Moro Jomo actually got a lot of votes for stock up too. It's just that Milton Williams had such a great year. Jalen Carter had such a great year. Jordan Davis gets a lot of discussion that it all almost went under the radar that Ojomo has played pretty well for 2 years now. The biggest difference, guys, is Ojomo is not built like Milton Williams. He's much more long-armed, and I think he uses that to his advantage. I don't know. He's a little bit lesser of an athlete, not too much, but lesser of an athlete than Milton Williams. But he's got really good hand usage, good feet, and he's having a very good camp. So I guess the question you would have that we all have to have, and even Vic Fangio has said it is, can he just simply slide into the Milton Williams snap role and not only occupy the same number of snaps, but can he play at that level consistently like Milton did? And he really doesn't have to because they're a little deeper, right, with Ty Robinson now as a fourth-round pick, and Gabe Hall really coming on in camp. And even Jordan Davis is doing his best to kind of become a little bit more of a pass-rushing presence.
Yeah, I'm glad you invoked Jordan Davis there because he lost a lot of weight in this offseason. He looks fantastic. You want to see him more in the passing game and getting pressure to the quarterback. What do you think his role is going to be heading into next year? And how much do you think we'll see him in preseason?
Jordan Davis?
Yes.
Yeah, you're not going to see him in the preseason. He's a starter. He's whether or not he's an improved pass rusher remains to be seen, but he is your starter in the base five-man front, which, they'll play on about 20% of their downs. And now if Vic, I guess it wouldn't totally surprise me if Vic threw Jordan Davis out there in the preseason a little bit in a four-man front as a three technique just to see if that pass rush is coming along or not. But I still think that there's more reps that he needs to give to guys like Byron Young and Gabe Hall and a couple of other guys lower on the chart. So I don't know that you're going to see a whole lot of Jordan Davis.
Jeff, good to talk to you.
You too, Jeff.
We saw in a Super Bowl winning season the immediate impact that Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean eventually had. And two other guys that are going to be elevated on the depth chart now are Jalix Hunt and Jeremiah Troder Jr. got placed in a first-team slot as well. I'm curious what kind of your thoughts are on what that's going to be like for them. What have you seen from specifically Trotter in the past that is going to make him more of a natural fit to take over a slot like that?
Yeah, so going back to Jimmy's media poll, I think Trotter got 1 or 2 votes for stock up player, no stock down votes, and I was either the one or one of the two to give Trot that love because I think he's really, and honestly, it probably wasn't stock up because his stock wasn't really down to begin with, but he's had a good camp. He's very instinctual. He knows where to be. It's almost as if he grew up in a family of linebackers and just knows how to play the game. But that's sort of a stark difference than, say, Jahad Campbell, who is the way better athlete, but is still, even though he played the position last year at Alabama, still learning it, not as instinctive, but it's kind of hard to, when you're a first-round pick and you have that kind of athleticism, to not put you on the field. So I'm kind of curious to see, when that season opens and Zach Baun's out there, does Vic play both of them? Maybe one guy against the run, one guy against the pass? Or does he just say Campbell has shown me enough that I play him and Trot will continue to be a great special teamer and, fill in where we need to be? But I have the utmost confidence that Troder can start next to Baun and hold his own pretty well there.
Jeff, I wanted to talk about the offense a little bit. How have the players been adjusting to Kevin Patullo, specifically Jaylen Herz? I read Twitter all the time, and I see all these interceptions that he's throwing and all this other nonsense. But
I think it's only 2 or 3. It's not like he's
the world is ending every time Jaylen Herz throws an incomplete pass. But how has the offense kind of been adjusting to Patullo and Jaylen Herz in specific?
Yeah, Pete, so I've covered, this is my 20th training camp covering the Eagles, and I pretty much feel like I've seen it all. And what I've seen this year, the offense got off to a nice start the first 2 or 3 days, and the defense came storming back. Defense had some really good practices, but that doesn't mean anything about the regular season. It's just the ebb and flow of training camp. I think Jaylen's been good. I think he's been doing a nice job. What has stuck out to me is in the regular season, his targets tend to be pretty top-heavy to like the top 3, right? A.J. Brown, Devontae, and Goddard. And it'll be like that this year too, as long as those guys are healthy. But with Devontae missing some time, with A.J. Brown out with the hamstring, he hasn't just per se made 1 or 2 receivers his main targets. I think he's done a nice job of spreading the ball. I think he is developing a rapport you can see with Jahan Dotson. I've noticed that Johnny Wilson, after maybe a rough start to camp, has started to catch the ball a little bit more. And I think in general, Jaylen's doing a good job of running the offense the way it should be, making good decisions in the red zone, finding mismatches, getting the ball out of. He's weird. When he does throw the ball, he gets the ball out of his hand quickly. And then there are the times where he would take a sack in the training camp where he's just not seeing it. So or it's just not there. So I think he's been steady. There really hasn't anything that popped to me. I would say all quarterbacks in total, there just haven't been that many downfield shots. But, the defense starts off in a too high look pretty much on every snap. So that doesn't surprise me.
Next week, they're going to hold joint practices with the Browns, correct?
Correct.
What can we kind of get from those next week? Anything? As opposed to just offense going up against defense?
I love joint practices. Because the players seem to appreciate it more because they're finally lining up against somebody that isn't their teammate. They're seeing looks. One of my favorite moments, and this is just if you're attending or from a personal standpoint, but 2 years ago when the Eagles went down to Miami, they were supposed to have 2 joint practices in Miami, and we were down there for them. Now, they didn't wind up having a joint practice on the second day because the Dolphins got some kind of stomach bug.
I remember
One of the most amazing things was watching Tyreek Hill practice because say what you want about the guy, but he gives it 100% every snap in practice. And he opened up, even at 7-on-7s, he toasted Darius Slay. And it's just amazing to see amazing athletes like that up close in person as opposed to just watching them perform on a football field. So Myles Garrett will be in here, and it'll be really awesome to see
Shedeur
him.
Sanders will be in town.
I said amazing athletes.
He does have his number.
Myles Garrett will be here, getting back to really good Hall of Fame caliber players. He'll be here going up against Jordan Mailata, right? And trying to think of some other good Browns players. Cedric Tillman, I suppose, will be an interesting matchup for. And Shedeur Sanders will be here, and the 4 other quarterbacks they got.
There you go.
So there is stuff to be gleaned, Pete, because you'll see them practice against different looks, and then you from an offensive and defensive standpoint, as camp goes on, you start to know what they're going to do because they're seeing the same things all the time.
We're talking with Jeff P. Mosher right here on Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. You can follow Jeff at Jeff P. Mosher on the Twitter X platform. Jeff, I want to get back to the defensive side of things. And Andrew Makuba, he's back at practice as well. He suffered that shoulder injury early on in camp. What can we expect out of him over the next couple of days in the preseason? And what does his role look like, especially since he got hurt?
Yeah, kudos to him, Nick, for being limited yesterday. What was yesterday? Tuesday? I forget what day it is. Yeah. He gave it his best. He's working through that shoulder injury. He had a nice pass breakup. He, quote unquote, allowed a touchdown to Dallas Goedert along the back line of an end zone, but it wasn't a coverage issue. I mean, Goddard just leaped up in the air, caught it, and did Dallas Goddard things. I don't really consider that a bad play on Makuba's part. So I credit him. He needs to get the practice. He needs the reps. I think he's better for the scheme with his talent than, say, Sidney Brown might be. Not that Sidney's played poorly. It's just that they drafted Makuba with that versatility in mind. And I think if he can get these reps, right, and get back out there, he'll have a chance to start the season opener next to Reed Blankenship.
You know, they make the trade for Jacorian Bennett from the Las Vegas Raiders, adds a little bit more intrigue to that already crowded cornerback room. What does that mean for Eli Ricks? Because Ricks seems like he's had a really good camp. Where does that put him and his positioning on this roster?
Yeah, it certainly makes it tougher if Jacorian Bennett doesn't win a starting job and you trade for him. He's probably going to be your backup. So that's tough for Eli, who is a backup outside corner. It all depends. Now, it depends on what happens between the Adoree-Jackson battle with Kelee Ringo. If Adoree does not win it, they don't necessarily have to keep him. You know, it's sunken cost. It wasn't that much to sign him to a one-year deal, and then that might be good for Rick. So there's a lot to work itself out. I think Bennett's going to get a really good look here over the next few weeks. I talked to some Raiders sources about him. The way they've described him is a little bit like Ringo, like mini Ringo. He's not as big. He's shorter version, but he's for being a great athlete, just like Ringo, he's a little stiff-hipped, and he can be a little grabby, right? And those are the two things that stand out about Ringo, obviously enough, or coincidentally enough. So we'll have to see how he practices and acclimates to the scheme. It's not an easy scheme for a cornerback to learn overnight with all the what we call match, carry, deliver concepts that are involved in it. So it'll take a little bit here.
Yeah, and with Bennett, I mean, he didn't play a lot of special teams when he was with the Raiders, right? So Are they kind of hoping that Bennett really kind of wins that job and plays very well? So maybe you have Ringo, who's really good on special teams, they can utilize next year in that role again, and they won't have to use as much in the starting role as a corner.
Yeah, it's a good point. He's been in the league 2 years, Bennett, and has not played a lot of special teams, but also he had a shoulder injury. I was told last year that would have prevented him from being able to play on special teams. So we shouldn't just assume that he can't contribute on special teams. But that being said, you know, the shoulder was still, I believe, as what I understand, it wasn't like completely fine. I know he had to pass his physical, so he's good there, no practice. But I think he's got to work his way through, just like Campbell, right? John Campbell, I think Bennett's got to work his way through that shoulder to see if he can both play on defense and special teams.
Jeff, the idea of Vic Fangio getting fits for his system, we know Howie Roseman's a really good GM, and he kind of works and operates with this idea that he's got to get guys who are fit for his coaching staff. So getting guys in, like Fangio was clearly a big fan of getting Campbell and Makuba. Those were two guys when they drafted, and there seemed to be a lot of excitement in the room. How important is that to have that bond between the general manager side of things and building the team and the coaching staff that's going to take them to the next level?
Yeah, it's important, but I mean, it should be pretty clear that Howie's going to go get guys that Howie feels are right for the team, and he does factor in coaching. But I will say, and this is not meant to be a criticism because, well, it is, but I mean, anybody can do this. But like, he has definitely signed players who have not fit his coach's schemes and has paid the price for that in the past. You know, it was just 2 years ago. Well, it was just last year he signed Devin White, who is the type of inside linebacker that Vic Fangio would not want to be involved with. And all, you know, us reporters would hear is we're wrong about this because they wouldn't have made this signing if Vic Fangio didn't sign off on it. Well, you heard last week Vic Fangio say he didn't even watch tape on Adoree-Jackson. It was a guy that Howie wanted and Howie signed it. So good thing for Howie is he's able to make trades and make other moves that compensate for his occasional signings that don't fit. But I think ordinarily Howie does look for players who are going to fit the scheme, and sometimes he just signs players who he hopes the scheme will acclimate to, or vice versa, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't.
Well, one move that maybe might not work out, we'll see how the cutdown day goes, is Kenyan Green. How has his camp gone? He hasn't really taken a stranglehold on that job yet, so what about Kenyan Green, Jeff?
So going back again to Jimmy Kempski's media poll survey, Kenyan Green got a lot of votes, but it wasn't in the stock up category. It was the stock down category. Not been impressive. It's hard for us to judge offensive linemen in training camp. So you go a little bit on what you're seeing with what teams he's running with. I know that the coaches don't necessarily look at one-on-ones as an evaluation of what kind of player you are. It's more for working on technique and, preparing for a pass rush versus blocking it. But, man, he got worked over in one-on-ones by, I think, Gabe Hall. I forget who I wrote down in my notes. Honestly, there's just been nothing that stands out from a positive note on Kenyan Green, and I'm starting to really question whether he's going to make this team.
Wow.
Jeff, one last question before we let you go. I do want to ask about the offensive line and kind of the interior offensive line and some of the position battles there. Can you give the audience just kind of where that stands at this moment?
Yeah, I mean, there is some competition going on there, but it's pretty cut and dried. The idea that there was ever a competition for Tyler Steen between Kenyan Green or anybody else was obviously a farce, because he's taken every single first-team rep and has drawn pretty good reviews from his teammates and coaches. So you know who the starting five is, right? And now it's bound to your backups. If they had to make the 53-man today, Kendall Lamb makes it as your swing tackle. Matt Pryor's going to probably be your first right guard off the bench because and he can play a little left guard too, but I think they'd rather have him on the right side. So that's 7 right there. Drew Kendall, I've been pretty impressed. I mean, he's been a center. He's one of the few guys they've got that has actually snapped the football, not named Cam Jurgens. That was an issue for them last year, which is why Dickerson had to play it when Jurgens got hurt. So Drew Kendall's going to make this team no matter doubt, and he's already second-team center. So that's 8 offensive linemen, and then you've got guys like Darian Kennard. You've got Trevor Keegan, who is working as a third-team center. Not great with the snapping right now. It's not something he's done outside of the Senior Bowl, but he can play left guard, so I would probably think he's a good shot. And then Miles Hinton, the rookie, has looked pretty good. I would think those 3 right there have a pretty good shot to make it. So I've just given you now 8 O-linemen there. And Cameron Williams got a lot of work, which, they knew that when they drafted him, needs a lot of work to do. And am I missing anybody? And again, I'm not sure Kenyan Green is going to sit there and make it. Brett Toth, he's here for camp every year, and he's not on the team every year for a reason. So that's what you're looking at right now. And I would say that it's fair to say interior line depth could be an issue, just because you don't have, like a couple of years ago, they had some really good offensive linemen that could go in there and play and got claimed or signed by other teams.
Yeah. Listen, thank you so much, Jeff P. Mosher, for joining us today here on Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. One last one before you go. What is your biggest storyline heading into the first preseason game?
Well, it sounds like the Bengals are going to play their starters, right? At least on offense. So I think that to me is a pretty good tune-up then for sort of the middle to the back end of the Eagles defense, who starters are going to have to play. I'm calling them starters in quotes because we don't know if they're starters yet, but I imagine Troder Jr. will be out there. We'll see if Campbell's out there. We'll see if Cooper Dean.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm really, thinking more about the back end than the pass rush, right? Because Burrow's going to throw the ball around a lot, you imagine. But yeah, Jaylen Hunt, can he get some pass rush? I think that's fair to see if he's out there. He, to me, is a projected starter, so I'm not sure Jaylen Hunt will play. But how about Ojulari and Uche? I mean, Ojulari's been a little bit invisible in camp, so you want to see if he's out there, and Makuba at safety, and of course, the corners.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. Eagles play the Bengals tomorrow at the Link, 7:30 p.m., August 7th, first preseason game. We're just getting going here in the Philadelphia Eagles season. The NFL is here. Jeff, thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
All right, Nicholas, Peter, and Kevin, thank you very much. Talk to you guys some other time. Good job.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, Jeff. There's Jeff P. Mosher.